What supervillian has the most logical reason to be evil? Dr. Doom. He's peered into the futures of many different Earths, and the only world that was free from want and need was the future where he ruled. He's convinced if he is not in control, then humanity will suffer and fall apart. I always like Magneto's backstory. A mutant Jewish boy being orphaned at a Nazi death camp, learning to distrust authority, and wanting to forcibly prevent a similar Holocaust against mutant kind. A sympathetic villain. Dracula from Castlevania. They killed his one true love, then spat on her memory by calling her a witch. He went way too far with his revenge, but I can see why he did the things he did. Dr. Evil. That ritualistic testicle shorting really does a number on a young man. And don't even get me started on the lack of respect after completing 4 grueling years of evil medical school. If we could consider him a supervillain instead of a minor inconvenience. Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. Neither of his parents showed up to his birth. He was raised by ocelots, forced to be a garden gnome, forced to wear girl clothes to school, and he just wanted to be good at kickball. But the only reason he's trying to take over the tri-state area is because of a sarcastic comment on a terrible date with Linda Flynn, Sauron from the Marvel Universe. He has complete control over biological systems and used his power to turn people into dinosaurs. Spider-Man confronted him and asked why Sauron didn't use his power to cure cancer, and he gave the greatest, most moving villain speech in history. I don't want to cure cancer, I want to turn people into dinosaurs. Quote. Magneto. General Hummel from The Rock. He wanted the government to properly compensate honorably discharged war veterans for risking their lives for the country, and taking over Alcatraz was the only way he could do it. Zod from Man of Steel. It is, by definition, the most logical reasoning, as he was simply doing as he was innately programmed to do. Prolong the Kryptonian race by any means necessary, even if some Kryptonians have to die to see that goal fulfilled. The end goal is the logical. This is for the people as a whole. No moral quandary, no vendetta, at least not until Jor-El came back and started messing with it. Or until Cal took away his one chance to actually fulfill his goal. Just the pure, logical goal of I need to save my people, and this is the only course of action that will save them. Mr. Freeze, I mean the dude just wants his wife back. I mean, yeah, the whole killing people is a bit overboard, but if Batman would just help them out, he'd stop being bad. Megamind. I forgot the name, but in the Batman cartoon, isn't there this one girl who basically went crazy because she's stuck in the body of a child, but her mind develops so she has the mind of a woman in the body of a child? I wouldn't call him a supervillain, more an antagonist, but Squidward just wants to live his life and be a responsible adult. He's let go of his childhood years ago, and SpongeBob just gets in the way of him attaining his goals. I.e., a relaxing weekend, a clean yard, a music art career. I think Squidward is a perfect example of if you stare into the abyss, the abyss stares back at you, because the more he hangs with SpongeBob, the more he realizes he enjoys his company, and in some situations depends on SpongeBob's friendship. Squidward is afraid or incapable of having a good time by SpongeBob's standards. And he's afraid that the more he hangs out with SpongeBob, the more he will see a side of SpongeBob in himself. Hence why he's always got emotional walls up, reflected in several episodes where Squidward literally builds walls around his house to block out SpongeBob, his own fortress of solitude. Kiteman. Dude's son died from being poisoned, and he further had his mind and life broken. He's a supervillain to punish himself for his mistakes. Why the fuck does Batman keep just beating the shit out of this man instead of giving him therapy and a stable job? General Zod. Had the writers been a little more creative, he could have been the Vegeta of the DC universe instead of one among a long list of dead bad guys. Anakin Skywalker's was kind of sad. He visioned his mother dying, but he saw he was too late to do anything and couldn't stop it. Then he had the vision of Padme dying. So of course, since he loves her so much, he'd do whatever he has to do to keep her alive. So with Palpatine fucking with his head the whole time, he gets him to believe he can keep her alive. And before this, Anakin talked about wanting a new world order, something like that, like a dictatorship. So he basically made the best of it and went with it because he knew he and Padme could live a comfortable life after the Jedi wouldn't grant him his wish of being master. He did everything he had to do, including killing Jedi, trying to kill Obi-Wan, and even killing Padawans, the children, in which he didn't want to do. He cried and showed emotions, but did it all for Padme, but killed her in anger. Then lived the rest of his life continuing on killing Jedi since he blamed them for starting all of this, and lived in an uncomfortable suit that made him feel constant pain and itchiness with robotic limbs and fake skin, all fueled by anger. Zuko from Avatar. The dude was just seeking affirmation from his father. He wanted to redeem himself after being banished. Avatar has some of the best character development in any cartoon anime. Highly recommend it for those who haven't seen it. I think Captain Hook, if he could be considered a supervillain, would be logical. Supposedly Peter Pan was psychopathic and would trap kids in Neverland and kill them when they became adults. Captain Hook supposedly escaped when Peter tried to kill him and Peter missed and cut his arm off. And that is why he is missing an arm. Handsome Jack from Borderlands 2. He only wanted peace and order on Pandora, and the only way he could do that was by getting rid of the bandits and cleaning up the entire planet. He was also betrayed by the people who later killed him in the past and led him to go somewhat crazy. But he had a good reason to do what he did. Syndrome. What? Everyone gets devices that basically give them superpowers. Hell yeah? Donkey Kong. Mario mistreated him. Poison Ivy. I get it. I used to think Thanos. Because of what he told Gamora. He said something along the lines of nobody on your planet will ever have to face starvation again, and makes it sound like a much better place. This was until someone pointed out that in one of the Marvel movies Gamora is introduced as the last surviving member of her species race. Dr. Callahan from Big Hero 6. The dude just wanted his daughter back, if I remember rightly. This is a bit niche, but Emmett Selch from Final Fantasy XIV. Eons ago, his entire civilization was destroyed and reality was torn asunder into fragments. Only him and a few others survived, and they vowed to restore the world to the way it was and revive their civilization. Of course, in order to do so, they have to sacrifice the current world and everyone in it. Additionally, his kind were immortal and extremely powerful, and see the current world sentient beings as little more than animals. So to them, killing everyone is the moral equivalent of destroying an anthill. It's really interesting, because in the game, there is a really long time where the motive of the baddies seems inscrutable and they seem to just be evil for evil's sake. And then it's revealed that they really just want to bring their friends back and be heroes to their own civilization. I've seen it said before, but Lex Luthor, genius, epitome of health, a general paragon of the human race whose only concern is that we advance and evolve. Some alien superboy shows up and undermines all of what it is to be human and work hard because the sun happens to be yellow and he's the bad guy now. Meanwhile, everyone's getting lazy and irresponsible because some guy with an S on his chest can save them, so why bother? Despite the fact that half the problems the planets faces happens because intergalactic threats come to Earth to kill him. The iceberg from Titanic. Garo from OPM. He literally became into a monster to make an impartial justice. He believes, if people had a common enemy, they would never reject nor bully each other. Mojo Jojo, Condiment King, just needed money after Wayne Industries put his hot dog cart out of business. Knox from Wakfu, his entire goal is to travel back in time to save his family from a hurricane that flooded their island. To do this, he needs to collect wakfu from enough civilizations to power his time machine. Sure, to get the energy he needs to kill people, but if his plan works, then he'll have undone all of the damage while also getting his family back. So everyone lives happily ever after. If he fails, then he'll accept whatever punishment he deserves because he'll want to die at that point anyways. Here's the thing, despite everyone telling him that it's impossible, despite the god of time itself telling Nox that not even he can travel back in time, despite all of that, Nox's plan works. He kills off the last civilization, adds their wakfu to his time machine, and he goes back in time by 20 minutes, just enough to undo his most recent transgression. He spent 200 years collecting wakfu for a measly 20-minute rewind. Jason Voorhees. He literally is mentally handicapped and had to witness his mom's death. Ozymandias. Loki. Norse mythology, not Marvel. Of course there are many different branches and versions to mythology and the stories within them. But when I learned Norse mythology, Loki was lied to and taken advantage of by Odin, who killed his best friends so he could have greater knowledge, and the other Aesir. Loki was basically used and abused as a tool. At the start, Loki tried to help them, which is how Asgard got built. Sleipnir was conceived and given to Odin. Thor got his hammer and his wife got a golden wig. Loki brought gifts to the Aesir and only got scorn in return. Eventually he got pissed and started lashing out at the Aesir, and he just grew bitter against them. Sure, Loki has faults, but I highly doubt he deserved to be tied to a rock under a poison-dripping snake until Ragnarok. Side note, I know that this may differ from what others believe. As there are many versions of ancient religions, it is hard to find the most accurate. This was simply from the first version I learned. So please, if you believe or learn something different, take my opinion with a grain of salt. Ozymandias. The Dark Elves from Thor 2. The movie opens stating that in the beginning everything was darkness. Then the light appeared, and the Dark Elves just want to bring the dark back. To them, they're on a quest to set the universe in proper order. TBH, I think the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming, since although the stealing and stuff is way too far, he does have a good reason since he just wants to protect his family. I mean, if I'm the Penguin, I'm pretty bitter. Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Ultron. Itachi Uchiha. Not most logical, but my fave is gentle criminal and just wanting to be remembered. Oh, that and my boy Thanos. Zod. He just wanted to protect his people. It was programmed into him. It's not his fault for taking dangerous risks. No one said Dr. Horrible yet. What does he have to do? Ride in on bad horse and shoot you with his freeze ray to get your sympathy? Dr. Doom. His whole thing is proving his superiority. He objectively is superior to basically everyone except Reed Richards. Com from the Star Trek reboot. Sabretooth. Maybe. Once his mutant powers manifested, and after accidentally killing his brother, his father chained him up in his basement, and not only would he physically abuse Victor on a daily basis, believing that Victor's powers were the work of the devil, but he forcibly removed Victor's now fang-like teeth. Unfortunately, due to Victor's healing factor, his teeth would regrow and would be yanked out over and over and over again for years before Victor broke loose. Thanos. He realizes that saving everyone is unfeasible, but saving half of everyone is better than saving no one. Magneto. Dude had a messed up childhood and had multiple families killed. He was trying to protect his people, fearing what happened to the Jewish when he was a boy would happen again to the mutants. Eric Killmonger in Jadaka. Ozymandias in Watchmen. In order to save the Earth from nuclear war, he must kill a few million people and bring everyone together. The Satan. Light Yagami. Doofenshmirtz. Scar from The Lion King. He was wrong, obviously, but he and the hyenas were gnawing on bones for heaven's sake. Light from Death Note. He just wants to kill all the criminals and rid the world of evil. simple and easy goal that inevitably makes you a mass-murdering messiah. The Terminator thing is hardwired to kill John Connor. Spinell. She was abandoned in a garden for 6,000 years. I don't know if she counts as supervillain, but she did try to wipe Steven's friends' memories so Steven would die alone on a barren world. But that was because Pink Diamond abandoned her when she just wanted to be a friend. Plus, 6,000 years. Imagine someone telling their dog to stay in a cage and then never letting them out, and then they finally get out after 10 years just to find out their owner abandoned them. The dog would have some serious trust issues. TLDR. Spinell was abandoned in a garden for 6,000 years and wanted to kill the person who abandoned hers. Son. Joker. Specifically the most recent movie adaptation starring Joaquin Phoenix. Seeing this version's origin story made me see why he turned out the way he did.